Welcome back to the program. In about 20 minutes, just to let you know, we're going to update you on Tropical Storm Emily, which is out in the Atlantic right now. But, something that we're watching, and HTV will update you in about 20 minutes on that. Fortunately, right now, it doesn't look like it's going to get into the Gulf, but, some of the spaghetti models might be in a little disagreement there, but we'll go ahead and show you all that in about 20 minutes, kind of giving you a heads up, and that is Tropical Storm Emily, which so far is we're safe. But this time of year, you always want to watch anything in the tropics because we've seen far too often and too many times how things can develop. So we always want to be watchful. If you want to get into the discussion tonight, 879-1231, 879-1231. Thank you for calling and welcome to Bayou Time.
Good evening, Jimmy.
Good evening to you.
Okay, Jimmy, I take it that you're a new grandpa. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, no, I am. I am. In first grandchild, and Emily Catherine Dagate is doing just fine.
Well, praise the Lord.
As well as the mother and the dad.
Yeah, that's one of God's greatest blessings to have grandchildren.
Well,
and one of the good things is you can spoil them rotten and hand them back to the parents.
There you go. Well, I know I'll do the spoiling part for sure.
There you go. Jimmy, as far as your last caller, let's give the police the benefit of the doubt. We have black and white police in Terrebonne Parish and in Houma, and there's no indication that they singled out anybody because they were black. And it's a known fact that there is a big drug problem in the black communities, and not only black, but in inner city communities. Well, and it's across the nation.
And I agree with you. I guess the question is this, though, and I guess that to me may be where I could see trying to put myself in the caller's position. We know that drug use is prevalent throughout all races. It just seems that maybe it's a little more concentrated in certain areas. But we know, you know as well as I, we've got a lot of people of different races who are using drugs and abusing them. Now, maybe it's because they're harder to get because they're not in a concentrated area. I don't know.
Well, Jimmy, when you're standing on the street corner peddling it, you have a tendency to get caught.
You make a good point.
As far as the caller saying his sister was incarcerated for 20 years unjustly, well, she was undoubtedly found guilty by a jury of her peers, and the brother too.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Has been overturned in a court of law, then you can't say it's unjust. He's wanting to find his sister not guilty, but a jury of her peers found her guilty.
Well, he's expressing his opinion, and I think he's entitled to do that. Now, whether you disagree with his opinion or not, I understand. But I do understand and appreciate him expressing his opinion.
Right, but I mean, you can't just say without any fact that she was incarcerated for 20 years unjustly, and then his brother-in-law or his brother was incarcerated for 10 years or whatever unjustly, without having any
I'd have to go back.
Jurisprudence to back it up.
Well, and I agree, but I'd have to go back. I didn't get the same tone of what he was saying. I thought he was being very, I don't know, I just liked hearing from him, and I thought he put forth a viewpoint, but I didn't find that he said that there was so much unjust. He was, in my opinion, saying how much it affects the whole family, whether it's just or not. When somebody gets caught with drugs and they're incarcerated, I think he was focusing more on the collateral damage, so to speak.
Well, I understand what he was saying about the collateral damage and saying that basically it affects the mothers, the children, and the whole community. And it's a burden on society. But by the same token, he did emphasize that his relatives were incarcerated unjustly.
Okay, well...
And that being said, Jimmy, I'll be the first one to tell you that the war on drugs is a complete, total failure. They ought to just legalize it and be done with it. And if you're caught committing a crime to feed your drug habit, than incarcerate somebody for the crimes that they commit.
You know, you raise a point that I think will get debated a little more as time goes on. Maybe not against all drugs, but certainly maybe against marijuana. There may be some debate, you know, to legalize it. But I don't think there's enough, at least I haven't seen enough information, you know, as to whether that increases the use, or, you know, how does it affect minors? Do more minors then use it than are now? So there are a lot of unanswered questions that I would have.
Jimmy, what I had originally called for was to talk about the stuff in Washington.
Sure,
and
go ahead.
The previous callers talked about the balanced budget amendment, and, you know, he wants to call me stands corrected. You know, when you lose an argument, you resort to ad hom attack. But let's.
Well, I didn't catch who he was referring to. But
he
go
didn't
ahead.
do it this time, but he made reference to me last week.
Okay, well, I don't follow it that closely,
Yeah.
but
Well,
okay.
you know, if you got facts, you know, address the facts, but don't resort to ad hom calling me stand corrected. I could call him names, but that wouldn't get us anywhere.
Okay.
But as far as the
I'd
balanced
appreciate
budget
if you don't.
amendment, he tries to act like he's all informed and he digs up the facts, but he usually gives us half of the facts. And, you know, the balanced budget amendment was one of them. You know, you mentioned as far as wars.
Yeah, but let's get back. Okay, forget that. Why don't we get back on your point?
Let's get back to the fact. The wars and the balanced budget amendment, or a national disaster, these things are already factored into the balanced budget amendment.
I see.
You know, so if we have a war that we have to finance, or say a Katrina comes through, they can spend more than would normally be in a balanced budget.
Right, and that's what I think I tried to raise that point, that I'm certainly in agreement with that. But,
Right,
but that's not what's going on. We know what's going on.
And Jimmy,
they're buying votes. I mean, that's what they do.
you know, the best way I can put it is Congress is trying to blow smoke past your hemorrhoids. You know, they haven't done anything. You know, and I'm trying to be just as nice and polite as I can.
I understand.
You know, they haven't cut any spending. What they're doing is projecting a budget that they're going to spend forward 10 years and say, well, we were going to spend $10 trillion, but we're only going to spend $7 trillion now. And they haven't cut anything. They haven't cut a single penny.
Bingo. Because, I mean, in all of those figures, there's a built-in like 8% rise and increase every year. And that's built in. So all they are is cutting a small sliver of that already built-in increase.
Jimmy, why don't we just cut to the chase and say, let's go back to, say, a 2008 budget. And we're going to
I saw some people
to the 2008 level. We're going to cut these unnecessary agencies. We're going to cut spending. Like I said, I'd be all for cutting NPR. You know, that's just one.
Well,
and the other day, Jimmy, we talked, and I mentioned somebody on cerebral palsy, and you mentioned the fact that you're saying that you would want to have somebody castrated or
no, I never said. I didn't want anybody castrated.
You said it rhetorically, I believe.
No, I never said that. What I said was I disagree.
You said you're saying that you would have somebody.
I just thought, if I remember what my point is and was and still is just because somebody had a special blessed child doesn't mean that they shouldn't try again and maybe have a healthy child.
Well, you insinuated that I would have them sterilized, and I didn't insinuate that in any way.
Well,
but to give a better example of what I would cut from Social Security.
Okay.
Let's say people going around getting what they call crazy checks.
Right.
And you've heard of them. I'm sure you've encountered them in your law practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you can just say that, well, I'm scared to go out of my house. And if you persist, Social Security will give you what they call a crazy check.
Right.
And you don't have to do anything, and you get a paycheck.
Well,
and there's the loopholes to get into that are so broad that the amount of people that are getting crazy checks is astronomical.
All right.
And that's just an example of government waste that you were talking about earlier.
Okay. Look, I appreciate all of your comments and your opinions, and thank you for calling.
Okay, you have a good night.
Okay, you
Bye-bye.
too. What we'll do is we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll go right back to the phone line.